What's up, guys? Sal here from Story Church, and today we are going to dive into how you can create reels from your church's Sunday sermon using DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is a free software. That's right, a free software that you can download and start using today. First off, why would you want to create reels? Well, I can think of two reasons off the top of my head. First, it's a great way to further discipleship within your existing congregation because it keeps main points from the message in front of your church congregation through social media, not just on Sundays, but throughout the week. So they're not just relying on the Sunday message to take them through the next 7 days until the next weekend. The other reason is it's a great way to give people in your community a peek behind the curtain of your church and what your church is talking about, what you're engaged in, and what it's like to attend your church on a Sunday morning. This is going to be a multi-video series that is going to take you step by step on how you can import your media, how you can format it the right way for reels, how you can edit it, color correct it, add captions, and ultimately render it to be able to put out on your social media platforms. Now, I'm sure you're sick of hearing me talk, so let's go ahead and dive right in. All right, when you first launch DaVinci Resolve, you'll come to a screen that looks like this. Here you'll choose if you want to continue working on an existing project or you want to create a new project. For this, we're going to create a new project. So you click on Untitled Project, or you can just click New Project down here. You're going to want to give your project a name. We're going to call this Sermon Reel and create. The next screen you'll see in Resolve will be the cut screen. Let's take a minute to do a quick walk through the interface. These tabs on the bottom here will help you navigate various components within DaVinci Resolve. So the first tab is the Media tab. This section allows you to organize and manage the media for various projects, including video clips, timelines, and bins. The media area is particularly helpful to keep you organized if you're working on a project with many different media files, timelines, file types, and stuff like that. The next section is the cut section. This is where you can cut and splice video files with a simplified interface. We'll have a more in-depth tutorial on this tab in the future, but personally, I don't spend a lot of time here. I like this next tab over, which is the Edit section. The Edit section is where I spend the majority of my time cutting and splicing single or multiple video and audio clips to create a finished storyline. Next up is the Fusion tab. The Fusion tab is where you can work with compositing, motion graphics, cinematic visual effects, and even add 3D modeling objects and particles to your project. We'll take a much closer look at Fusion in a later video series. For this training on sermon reels, we're going to keep things a little bit easier to follow. The next tab over is Color. Color is a place where I spend a good bit of my time, and you probably will too. DaVinci Resolve is known for its amazing color balancing and grading functionality. We can cover a lot here, and we'll look at some basic color correction a few videos later in this series. The next tab over is Fairlight. Fairlight is used for mixing and editing audio, adding music to your videos, and you can even get a little crazy with it by mixing specifically for some advanced 3D applications such as Dolby Atmos, RO 3D, 3D Space View, and more. Something to keep in mind when it comes to adding music to your sermon reels, often music, especially if it's not complementary to the video, will actually detract from your message instead of enhancing it. Simply put, it can become a distraction. I personally don't use music in sermon reels for this very reason. Finally, the Delivery tab. The Delivery tab is where you will format and render your video for delivery to your chosen platform. So now let's take a look at how we're going to import some media. We're going to go back over to the Edit tab, and if you look up here, it says No Clips in Media Pool. This is your media pool. This is where you will drag your sermon clips into so that you can bring them into the timeline, you can cut them, you can splice them, you can edit them together. So if you right-click on this tab, you can import by clicking Import Media, or you can simply hit Command-I. And that will bring up your Finder window where you can navigate to wherever it is that you have your media available. Or you can also just navigate to your Finder window. If you know where your media is, you can grab it and you can just click and drag it over and drop it in the media pool. It's going to give you a little warning that the project frame rate, the default frame rate for your project, and the frame rate of your video are not the same. You're going to want to change this because you're going to want your render and your playback to be the same as the project frame rate of your video. Now, there are some cases or instances where you don't want to change this, but in this case, you definitely do. So we're going to click change, and now you see that our video has now been imported into the media pool. A side note, if you can't tell, I'm using a Mac and Windows is a little bit different. Typically, Windows uses a control key. For most everything, uses the Mac command key to do. So if I say command for a shortcut and you're on a Windows computer, you'll probably want to use the control key instead. What we're going to do next is we are going to create a timeline. Now, you can do this in two different ways. You can hover over your media pool, you can right-click, go to Timelines, and hit Create New Timeline, or you can simply use the shortcut Command N, and that will pull up this where you can change some of the specifications of your timeline. So we're working with a reel, so we don't want our video to be in horizontal format. We want our video to be in vertical format. So you're going to want to unclick the Use Project Settings tab right there, and that's going to bring up some general formatting. So if you go and you click over to Format Next, you can click this right here. Make sure that you are in 1920 by 1080 HD, which is going to be the best setting for Instagram Reels, TikTok, etc. And if you click on Use Vertical Resolution, it will flip that to 1080 by 1920, which means you're no longer in a landscape view, you're in a vertical or portrait view, which is what you want. So the frame rate has already been updated with whatever frame rate your video has been shot in. Videos should be shot around 24 or 30 frames per second. Somewhere around 29.97 or 30 frames per second is best used for Instagram, TikTok, etc. But I've used 24 frames per second as well and never had a problem. So then you're going to simply click Create, and it's going to create a timeline. And if you notice, our timeline now has a vertical view. So if you look up here, this is your project view. This is where you can see everything that's happening within your video. And if you notice that we now have a vertical view, we want to click our media here and we want to drag it over onto the timeline. And so now you see that we have our video placed in the timeline and showing in our project panel or our project view. So far, we've covered the Resolve interface, how to add videos to your media pool, how to create a timeline and format it for vertical video, and how to attach your video clip to that timeline. In the next video, we'll walk you through how to edit your footage using the tools available to you in the Edit tab. If you found this video helpful and would like to continue to learn more about how to create or enhance your church's storytelling ability, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next video.